I was hoping to have a picture with a candle or a lamp or so, but we've had to modify one or two things. But I think the main thing is that I wanted to share what Roshan was alluding to in terms of Bubbles Naidoo. And the sisters are here, brothers-in-law are here, family, friends, and comrades. And it is appropriate that we just spend a few minutes talking about some of the interactions that we had with our sister, comrade, and friend Bubbles. And as Roshan says, although some of those clips, I'm not sure whether we want to play them out, but the photographs, yes, the photographs are fine, and hopefully we will get that looping later in the course of the afternoon. But what I wanted to share with you all was some memories that I have, and all of us here have, or many of us here have. And in particular, I wanted to refer to the campaign around the Second Access Road that the MRA fought against Mondi. So there's some key players in and among the audience who will remember. And just to recap for those who may not, a prominent member of the community lost his son in a motor vehicle accident, which collided, or the truck collided with his vehicle, and that drove residents to basically launch a campaign for Mondi to have their own access road along the canal that would take them directly to the Navy, that would obviate the need for literally thousands of trucks to pass through Badula Drive and Travancore Drive and pass through the suburb on its way to Mondi. And that campaign was in the latter part of the 80s. The dates are not so clear to me now, but I would imagine it was around about 1988 or 89. And it was one of the most powerful campaigns that the Merebank Activists Association undertook. And as per usual, it was a bit of a protracted campaign because we were up against a multinational. So at that time, Mondi was part and parcel of the Anglo-American group of companies which was headquartered in London. In fact, the international CEO was based in London, Tony Traha. But in the meantime, I think Viren, Jeevan, Roshan, and many others, and the MRA was led at that time by the late Mr. Govindan Ramsamy. And basically, we, and many of the sisters who took part in the marches, in fact, Malika sustained an injury when the tear gas canister hit her on the head. So all of that was happening, and then in the meantime, or in the course of that campaign, we were basically having delegations that were meeting with Mondi management to demand the second access road. And why I'm saying this is that Bubbles Naidoo was part and parcel of those delegations. Now, as you well know, she was in an earlier message on the groups, I referred to her as a feisty someone, and feisty she was. So that's the part I wanted to touch in this brief message. So there were a good few engagements with the management of Mondi, and we had in our delegation, as I mentioned, a few names led by Mr. Govindan Ramsamy, about 8 to 10 people, and Bubbles was part of the delegation. So we go to Mondi, and before we enter the boardroom to do any discussions or to have any discussions, they take us to some room where there's sumptuous snacks and cocktail sausages and chicken and samosas and a whole spread laid out there for us to have before we go to the discussions. And the delegation quickly spoke amongst each other and decided that we are not going to partake of the snacks and whatever eats were provided, but we will move on to the actual discussions. So the hosts were feeling pretty snubbed. But that was the mood, that was the sentiment in the community where we refused to partake of those eats before the function. In any case, so we go to the boardroom and we're sitting almost say 10 aside, so we're sitting on this side, they're sitting across the table, and they were led by their engineers and their general manager. I think his name was John Barton. So he was quite a powerful figure, and on our side we had Viren Singh, who took him on. At one stage, John Barton said, "You will not manage me," because he was the general manager of Mondi, and Viren was trying to get him to commit to A, B, C. So in his usual way, Viren will say, "Okay, so by Wednesday, you will give us your engineering plans. By Friday, you will give us this, and by Monday, you will give us that." And he says, no, you are not going to manage me. I'm the manager here. But coming back to Bubbles, so we were probably about halfway through the negotiations, and we seemed to be making slow progress, and Bubbles let loose. Now, we, even on our side of the table, started to cringe a little, because what we found is that Bubble was using some very high and powerful language. So basically what Mondi's tactic was, they were giving us engineering plans, and they were putting all sorts of timelines and saying we need to build this culvert, we need to upgrade this road, or we need to have this plan, or the city council is doing something, and Bubbles laid into them. And she basically, in fact, she used some quite powerful words, if I can remember. She says, "Residents are dying on our streets, and you have the audacity to give us these excuses and engineering plans." And she just used, high language. And that was the kind of feisty character that I wanted to bring up. Bearing in mind that Bubbles had been an activist, and the family had been activists and supporters from like a decade before our grouping had got onto the scene. So we're looking at the 70s. So all through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and even up to currently in our anti-corruption and our Orange Mask campaign, Bubbles was very active. So I thought I would relay that kind of story. Hopefully later in the afternoon we'll be able to put up the pictures and maybe the videos. But I thought that I wanted to bring up this character, that Bubbles, and the strength of her arguments, the strength of her character, and how feisty she was. And as I said, a good command of the language, because when she had finished off with them, the Mondi delegation, basically, their faces were red, they were basically cringing on the other side of the table. And at the end of the meeting, one of them even said, "We need someone like Bubbles to join our side." Thank you.